Welcome to Real Estate IQ Wisdom for Smart Moves, featuring Sarah Clish, the private wealth advisor of Ameriprise Financial.
What is your advice for retirement planning?
Sharad, this is my favorite question. So retirement planning when you're younger. Let's do this in phases. Okay. So let's say you're 25 or 26. You're out of college. You've worked a couple of years. And this amorphous thing of retirement is, 45, 50 years down the line, right? Very hard conceptually. Humans don't think like that, right? We just don't. And yet, what I describe to young people is the power of compounding, right? If you think about the beginning portion of savings, it's this little acorn, right? And then over time you add to it and it becomes a walnut, and then it gets bigger and it gets bigger and it gets bigger. And finally it becomes a snowball. And that snowball rolls downhill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's because of the power of compound interest. Right? And so the younger you begin by setting aside funds that you, in your mind, set a wall. It's behind the wall. I don't get to use it. It's not available for me now. It's for my future me, right? The better off you'll be. The less, honestly, you'll have to save over your lifetime because of that compounding effect. And the other element that I share with young people is, if you can do it, pay the taxes now. So our two primary ways of saving for retirement are putting aside money into a 401k, if that's available to you, or if you're a self-employed individual, setting up your own retirement plan, right? And most of us do that on a pre-tax basis because we get a tax benefit today and we'd like to lower our taxable income, right? But what that's doing is pushing the tax bill down the road.
Right.
And so if you can manage it from a cash flow perspective, and you can save that money into a Roth 401k or just invest in a taxable account and do it in a tax efficient manner, right? The power of that money further down the line is so much greater from a spending perspective because it's not going to be subject to taxation, right? So with young people, I just tell them anything, do something, put 3% in your plan, right? And every time you get a salary increase, put it into the plan, right? Just make that a habit because that money will be there for you when you're farther down the line. Right. When you're in your 40s, that's the time to start thinking about what it's going to look like 25 or 30 years ahead of time. Because most people in their 40s can see retirement. It's a little less amorphous, right? It has a little more shape, a little bit more form. They can articulate what it might look like, what it might feel like. So that's a very good time to start checking in if you haven't been paying attention before, right? If I want to maintain my current lifestyle or what it's going to grow to with inflation over time, and with the current amount I'm saving and what I've already got saved, am I on track? Yes or no? Sometimes people don't want to know the answer to that question, but ignorance does not help you make changes in course, right? So finding out where you stand in your 40s and early 50s, really key, right? Let's say that you say to yourself, I want to be in a position of not having to work by the time I'm 65, right? It's like, put a stake in the ground, let's figure out, can I do it, right? That is something that once you understand, are you on track or not? 5 years out, so when you're 60, if you say 65 is it and you're on track, 5 years out is when you need to start figuring out your retirement distribution strategy. Here's why. Accumulating, it's not easy, right? You have to put the money aside. You have to pay some attention to the investments. Sometimes, frankly, the less people pay attention to the investments, the better, because they usually shoot themselves in the foot, right? But by the time you get to 60, you usually do not have any idea how to take the money you have saved and turn it into a paycheck. And there's so many different factors that go into that. There's planning for your Medicare Part B premium, which is directly driven by your income. There's planning for tax brackets, which today are pretty generous and pretty low, but may not be that way when you go to retire. So understanding how is that money that maybe got saved mostly pre-tax actually going to be spent? How much is it going to be worth to you based upon the tax brackets, right? And then there's should I take money out of my pre-tax accounts early? Should I wait until I have to, those required minimum distribution things that my current clients who have to take them hate? I don't need the money, Sarah. Doesn't matter that you don't need the money. The IRS wants their taxes, right? So understanding what are the right pools of money to pool from. Should I start Social Security at my full retirement age, or should I delay it, right? These are all elements of your retirement distribution strategy that if you have a clear understanding about how that's going to work 5 years before you get there, now you can line everything up. You line all your investment accounts in such a way that they support that plan. And then you have a little bit easier time making that transition, because it is the most difficult transition I see people make. It's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute, because suddenly there's no paycheck anymore.
Check the full episode on our YouTube channel and on Apple Podcast.